Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Matthew, there's lots of concerns at the moment about what's happened to the low-level bridge in Wellington, and it seems like it should have been acted on well before this. What do you think about that?
It's certainly disappointing, Tony. I actually went down for an inspection yesterday, had an inspection from both sides of the bridge. The bridge itself obviously looks like it's in good condition, but we are getting some engineers involved to actually do some further studies on the bridge. It's all well and good for me to look at it and say it all looks okay, but I'm obviously not an engineer, so we need to get that information. But obviously the main concern is the extreme erosion that's occurred on the south side of the river, on the Gabolian Street entrance there, where now we've lost half of Gabolian Street there, and that's a pretty disappointing situation to have.
Now, in 2018, the Soil Conservation Service was hired to run a report on what's happening, and I believe you did get a report in 2018, or the council did, the previous council, that is, before you and the current council formed. So what did they say?
The report gave a number of points of priority along the Bell and Macquarie River. The area there that we're talking about as the Bell turns into the Macquarie, that Gabolian Street area there, was highlighted in the report as a high priority area. It highlighted the amount of erosion that had occurred there. It estimated that with current conditions, there was about 3 metres per year that they estimated would continue to erode. And given the distance that Gabolian Street was away from the river at that stage in 2018 and that erosion level, they estimated that there was possibly only 10 years before it would get to the point where Gabolian Street wasn't able to be used. That was the perfect time, Tony, to then do something about it because, as we all know, 2018 we were in the middle of a very, very bad drought. That continued all through 2019. That continued on into 2020. The perfect time to do work in a river was obviously in a drought when you had low flows coming along the Bell, low flows obviously coming along from the Macquarie. I think at that time the dam had levels of water in it around 1% or even lower than that. So the perfect time to do that work was then. And the work that was suggested by the Soil Conservation Service report was quite reasonable and sensible work. It talked about putting some concrete structures down low and then putting some gabions in to protect the face of the actual riverbank there. It wouldn't have been incredibly expensive work to do, and it would have protected that whole area there. Unfortunately now, Tony, the situation we've got is that prevention is better than cure. We've now got all of that riverbank that's fallen away. We'll do the engineering report on the bridge itself, but then we've got to look at what you could do to recover the road that then feeds down into that bridge. And the amount of work and the expense of that work now is dramatically different to what it was way back in 2018.
So, Matthew, you're saying basically if the previous council had acted, there could have been an economic solution that could have been done in a timely fashion.
There was a report that demonstrated exactly that, Tony, that there was a solution there. The report details what the solution needed to be, and the report gave estimations of the cost of that particular process. And again, they were estimations. It wasn't a detailed study on that particular area, but there were some estimations there of the cost of doing that. So yes, you're right. It would have been much better financially, and obviously much better now when we've seen what's occurred where people can't use that bridge now. And I don't know at this stage, Tony, how long people won't be able to use that bridge for, or if we get to the stage where it's not even economical to repair the damage that's been done around the entrance, that southern entrance to the bridge, whether it's economical to even do that at all now, which is a dramatically different scenario to what it was 4 years ago.
So, Matthew, I estimate 3 years have passed since that report came out, when that council failed to act.
Well, that council was in place until December 2021. The new council's only been in, obviously, since then and only been here for about 10 or 11 months. This report, I wasn't even aware of this particular report, the Soil Conservation Service report. I only saw that report in August this year. But again, we couldn't act on it then because we've got high flows, incredibly high flows of water coming down both the Bell and the Macquarie, and that is absolutely the wrong time to try and do any repairs on a river, on a river bank, on the face of that particular area there. You couldn't do that work, or if you try to do that work with those high river flows, you'd put lives at risk and you'd create a huge amount of additional expense to do it. So the only thing that this council could have done once we were aware of that report was wait until we get dry times again, and then that would have been when we could have looked at addressing it. But we just didn't have that chance to do that, unfortunately, Tony. From August when we saw that report till now, we've had that incredible erosion there, and so now we have to look at what else we can possibly do.
Thank you very much.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.